Welcome, lady friends. What's up? It's your girl here, Olivia, international life and business coach. If you're a creative and ambitious woman who wants to have breakthroughs not only in your business, your bank account, but also your brain, then this is the podcast for you, girlfriend. Get ready to rock your online business, master your social media presence, and monetize your passion from your mobile. Woo! It's time to elegantly strap on those lady balls and jump in. Are you ready to start slaying your side hustle? If so, then join me. Let's get started. Welcome, ladies. Today I'm going to be talking about or addressing the question, should I be podcasting during the coronavirus epidemic? And everything else involved with that. So you might have some questions around like, why are my downloads dropping or growing? Is it insensitive or irrelevant to be podcasting right now? Should I be taking a break until things go back to normal? Should I be releasing more or less content right now? What the frick do I talk about in my podcast? What do I do in terms of all the episodes that I planned out prior to the coronavirus hitting? And, you know, for the mamas out there, they might be thinking, well, how do I record my episodes when my kids and my hubby are at home and there's no peace or quiet? And also, should I talk about the pandemic on my show, or should I just pretend that nothing is happening? As well as, what does it mean for podcasting or your show specifically? So there's quite a lot to address, and I thought I'm going to put together an episode to help guide you guys through this podcasting time right now. So for me personally, I was tested for COVID-19 as of yesterday. I have had a sore throat for quite a few days in a row, and it wasn't until Friday, which was 2 days ago, that my symptoms started to become worse and I started to get other symptoms. So the dry cough, so excuse me if I do cough during this episode. I don't have a fever, but have had a bit of shortness of breath as well. So for those of you that don't know, I'm actually a part-time registered nurse and registered midwife in Australia, and I work in a private hospital, currently 3 days a week, dropping to 2 days a week next month, actually. So I apologize if I don't sound exactly like myself right now or throughout the recording. I'm sure you guys will understand why. So because I am a healthcare professional that works with a vulnerable group, so I work with new mums and babies, it is my duty of care and responsibility to stay home if I have symptoms, which is exactly what I'm doing right now and why I'm in 5 days worth of quarantine at home. And I thought, you know what? This is the perfect time to be recording a podcast episode about podcasting during this pandemic. What people don't realize is that we have got the coronavirus happening at the moment, but we're going into flu season, you know, and there's still colds and other bugs going around as well. So I might potentially test positive for coronavirus. I might potentially go negative. I actually don't know. I'm hoping that if it is coronavirus, I'm grateful that I've got it now and not later when things are predicted to be getting worse, because I would prefer to have some immunity to it so I can show up and help people as much as I can. Being a healthcare professional as well, I also come into a lot of contact with a lot of different type of people in the hospital system. So I probably do have it, but I can't say for sure. But I just wanted to say that, you know, currently in Australia, we're very lucky and blessed because, well, compared to the rest of the world, as we aren't hit that badly just yet at this point in time. By the time that this recording goes live, I don't know what it's going to look like out there. All I know is that Australia isn't testing people willy-nilly. They're only testing people with certain criteria. So people that have been overseas in the last 14 days, people that have symptoms, and people that have come into confirmed cases of COVID-19. But as I said, me being a health professional, they're testing all health workers anyway that have symptoms just in case. So things are a little bit crazy and a bit chaotic right now, and some businesses and podcasts might be feeling the effect. This podcast episode is specifically for podcasters or people that are wanting to start podcasts and wanting to know a bit more about it. So let's dive in today. The reason why you might be seeing a sudden drop in your engagement or your downloads in your podcast is either it'll take a big dip, or you'll actually see the numbers and the downloads grow, depending on a few different things. So like what your topic is, your category, what you talk about, that sort of thing. It is tough to guesstimate what trends will be happening in podcasting. It can either grow exponentially or it might slow down. But as of yesterday, in the last 24 hours, there have been over 7,000 new podcasts started. So if you do see a drop in your downloads, I don't want you to freak out. I don't want you to think that something is wrong or that you're doing something wrong. And it doesn't necessarily mean the end of your podcast show. It just means that the world is adjusting to new circumstances right now, and one day things will normalize again. So on one hand, people are out of their normal daily routines, right? We're experiencing massive disruptions. Usually people might listen to podcasts on their commute to work, in the gym as they're working out, walking the dogs with friends, picking up the kids from school in the car, cleaning around the house, that sort of stuff, right? But at the moment, there are less people globally that are commuting to work right now, or more people are actually working from home. Especially those people that don't have a job, obviously they're not commuting anywhere because they might be self-isolating or in quarantine. More and more people might be sleeping in and taking advantage of the fact that they don't have to wake up to alarms and rush off to an office. And some parents might be really distracted with caring for their kids or homeschooling their kids during this time as well, because, we don't all live in Australia that listen to this podcast. So people aren't necessarily listening to podcasts like they normally would, yeah? On the other hand, though, there might be some people out there choosing to spend this extra time that they've got up their sleeve educating themselves and thinking of other things that they could be doing. So there's more and more people hanging out at home, whether they decide to consider to be stuck at home or cooped up at home or actually are using this time wisely. They're plugging into technology for connection right now and for education and for entertainment. So people aren't necessarily just watching a screen like Netflix or Stan or anything else, right? They might actually be wanting to listen to podcasts while they cook and clean. They may not be able to stream Netflix all day in case there's an issue with their internet connection or something like that. So listening to podcasts on their mobile is what they might turn to, or might be interested in figuring out what this whole podcast thing is all about. So if you are into podcasting and you have a podcast, maybe it's time to start educating your audience, whatever the topic that you talk on, like telling them and educating them what is a podcast and where they can find your podcast and what it involves, and let them know that it's free, right? Like, the economy is struggling right now. People are worried about their pay packets, their incomes, that sort of thing. And letting them know that listening to podcasts is free, that minimizes any sort of financial concerns or potentially a barrier from actually engaging in listening to your podcast and gaining those great downloads and listenership. So just encourage them to download the podcast episodes when their Wi-Fi is good, so it's not using up their mobile data and that sort of thing. And let them know that they can literally be podcasting or listening to podcasting while multitasking. Is it insensitive or irrelevant to be podcasting right now? Well, what a question. That is really dependent on how you want to perceive this. For me personally, I don't think it's insensitive or irrelevant. I see it completely differently. Your people need you now more than ever, and give them a reason to listen. Give them that guidance and that reassurance and that motivation and the practical education that they might be looking for. As a podcaster or a podcasting woman or a podcast hostess, whatever you want to call yourself, you have a unique opportunity to reach your people. You have a unique opportunity to use your voice and use this platform to really help people during this tense time in our history. People are searching for positivity. They're searching for tips. They're searching for something more, and so why can't you be that person that gives that to them? The whole question of should I take a break until things go back to normal, it's totally up to you, to be honest. If you feel like you need a break emotionally just to kind of get your own shit together and figure things out and process what's going on, then by all means do that. Once you've worked through that, then you'll probably most likely be better to show up in your podcast anyway, right? I know I had to do that for a little bit. I had to kind of go, holy crap, have a little mini freak out, get re-centered and re-grounded, and then I was good. As things continue to evolve, so do humans, so do our podcasts, so do everything, right? So if you need that time, then go ahead and do that. Would I suggest that you quit podcasting or, quit your business or anything like that? Once again, it's personal choice, but for me, I don't think that's a wise move right now. I think if anything, in a world so full of uncertainty right now, people are looking for certainty. They're looking for something or someone to count on. And if you can be that person and that constant in their lives right now, I think that's such a beautiful thing to give someone. Should I be releasing more or less content right now? So once again, you can decide to take a break if you need one to look after yourself and for self-care, absolutely. But if you're taking a break just because of the pandemic, I don't think that that is necessary, right? I'm not here to tell you what to do. However, this could be an amazing opportunity for you to connect and help with others, right? You could batch content, you could prepare your episodes in advance, you can write and record now for just in case if you do get sick later and you have a sore throat or you've got the flu or you've got coronavirus or whatever and you can't use your voice because it's scratchy or you keep coughing or it's sore, right? Now is actually a really good time to start making these sort of considerations. And for me, it's definitely something that I've started thinking more about. And let's be honest, anyone can get sick at this point. Anyone can get sick. We don't know what's on the horizon, so being prepared is better than being underprepared. Side note, if you are someone that has a lot of helpful information and it's in demand right now, this is not the time to be slowing down or getting lazy or running away or taking your foot off the pedal. If anything, you should be ramping it up because people need this. They need your stuff, yeah? This is the time to start working towards sharing more. If you do have a lot of helpful info and resources, and you do have a lot to offer, and what you do have to offer is in demand, then just continue to do that. Continue to put your stuff out there, and you're likely to see massive growth. Because let's be honest, there'll be a lot of podcasters out there worried, concerned, taking a break, distracted with other things, understandably in a lot of cases too, by the way. And we know that there's actually a big uptake in podcasters right now. As I said, over 7,000 people have launched a podcast in the last 24 hours, and that number is likely to increase over the next few months, I think. And therefore, if there's more podcasting shows, there's more people promoting their podcast, driving more traffic and listeners to the podcasting platforms and discovering new ones. And your podcast show could be one of those, which is super duper cool. I just encourage you to show up for your people. It builds that trust with them, and it builds that consistency. And this is one of the most important principles of podcasting, I think, and also business, because we know that I'm a huge business fan and a business coach. But like anything, it really comes down to maintenance. You know, like you're not going to reap the rewards if you go to the gym inconsistently. Yeah, you're not going to reap the rewards if you eat healthy inconsistently. You're not going to feel energized if you have inconsistent sleep, right? It's about showing up for you. It's about showing up for others to the best of your ability. The next question, what the frick do I talk about on my podcast now? What do I do with all my planned out episodes, that I had organized prior to the coronavirus? Well, I'm glad you asked the question, let me tell you. I literally have gone through that same thing. I've had the next couple of episodes, I think the next 5 to 6 all planned out, written. The past episodes that I've recorded and I've sent to my podcast manager, I've had to say to her, you know what, I need to do an intro for this because what I said back then carries a bit of different weight now that the context of the world is changing and evolving. And it always is, but it's more sped up now and it's impacted by the coronavirus. So the best advice I can give is if you've already recorded some episodes and you're like, wow, this may not be as relevant now, or some of it is, but not entirely, just do what I did and do an intro and attach that to your recording. Let people know, let your listeners know that this was all recorded prior and things are a little bit different now, but it still can be relevant. And whatever it is that you recorded, it's still going to be of value for your people, right? So I wouldn't disregard it. I wouldn't delete it. I wouldn't throw it away. But if you do need to tweak it to make it more applicable to right now, then do that. But don't forget, podcasting is a long game, right? Your podcast episodes will be around for a long time if you're around for a long time. So in 2 years' time, when someone's going back over your podcast and listening to episodes, it might be a golden gem for them. So I just want you to be wary of that. This is the best time to be adaptive and to have behavioral flexibility. And what I mean by that is being flexible with what's going on. Yeah. It's not the end of the world at the moment that we know of. There are people that are going to survive this, and it's not the end of the world if your episode plan, is shot to shit right now. It's going to be okay. But I want you to start thinking about what is the most important thing for you to be talking about right now for your audience, for your listeners. You could also save your episodes for later and forge ahead with some different content in the meantime. I trust that you know what to do here. I trust your intuition, and I trust that it will guide you, because as I'm saying this and talking about this, you're probably already getting some internal nudges of what you should be doing. So pay attention to those. Alrighty. So for the mamas out there, how do I record my podcast when the kids are at home and my hubby's home because, he hasn't got a job or he's working from home? The whole home environment's changing. How do I record? So I'll be super clear and honest here. I'm not a mum, so I can't fully relate to this. I don't have any children. However, I do have some tips. So at the moment in Australia anyway, our public schools are open. And so this may not be as useful to some Aussie mums out there. However, by the time this airs, our schools could be closed. Who knows what's going to happen, yeah? So for the mums that have got the kids at home, this is some tips for rearranging your schedule so you don't go insane. So tip 1 would be record when the kids are asleep or distracted. So that could be during their afternoon nap. It could be after bedtime. It could be putting them to bed early so they can catch up on some sleep and then you get some podcasting or some work done in your business. Or it could be, as simple as putting a movie on for them, putting their headset on so that they're hearing it through the headset and not throughout the entire house. So they're distracted with that, they're taken care of, and then you can escape and do an episode or a couple. Why not utilize your partner or your spouse if they're willing, or a family member or someone that's living in your home to babysit for a little while you get this done? Now, I'm not saying, take them to someone's house because we know we're doing the social distancing thing at the moment. It's probably safer that you don't do that, especially if you're under house arrest, isolation. So why not utilize someone to take care of them and take them away from you while you're getting this done? A good little handy tip would actually be recording in your closet, because clothes absorb sound and it stops the sound bouncing around, which can cause an echo in the background. So like when I think of this, I actually think of Charlotte from Sex and the City in one of the movies where she's got like her beautiful 2 kids and they're running amok and she just like locks herself in the pantry while the nanny's on the outside, and she opens the pantry and realizes that Charlotte's like on the brink of a breakdown and she's like, it's all good, I'll take the kids. So your pantry could be your closet and you could record in there instead. It's a good way to soundproof and muffle the sounds of things that are going on in the background or in your household. The other thing is just be like super honest with your audience, yeah? Like in case the kids do scream in the background, you've done your best and they're running around or they've knocked something over or the cat meows or the dog barks, and you've done your best to try and make the environment suitable for a recording so you get the best audio. Just be real with everyone and be like, you know what, guys, I'm so sorry. #mumlife, #real-life. We're all going through this right now, and I'm sure you can understand that it's a bit tricky, navigating this crazy situation. And the thing is, the listeners will be super forgiving because they're in the same boat. They understand. And if anything, it makes you more relatable and they can actually feel like they're in your home with you while you're recording the episode. And they probably are in the same situation where their kids are driving them mad and insane as well. So if anything, it'll build that connection with them. At the end of the day, we're all doing our best, especially with our altered routines, schedules, lives, and everything that's kind of happening at the moment. Alrighty, next question. Should I talk about the pandemic on my show, or should I just go on and pretend as if nothing is happening? So once again, my answer is it depends on 2 things. So firstly, is it relevant to your audience, and does it help your listeners? And if it's not relevant and it doesn't help them, then maybe it doesn't need to be addressed, yeah? If your podcast show has nothing to do with the coronavirus, or your business by the way, then maybe you don't need to actually go there. Maybe your podcast show or your business is a place that someone can go to take a break from all the coronavirus, crisis, mania and hysteria that's going on. Maybe they want to take their mind off it for a little while, and your show can be that thing for them to kind of disconnect and think about something different. Because we are constantly bombarded with updates and the news and all that sort of stuff online currently. You don't even necessarily have to devote an entire episode to it. You could just touch on it here or there. You could make reference to it, but you don't necessarily need to build an entire episode around it. However, if it is something that is relevant, so like, for example, I'm a business coach for people, or women specifically, with side hustles or businesses, it's very relevant right now. Like the economy is taking a huge hit. It's changing. It's not quite stable. So it's very relevant for businesses, especially like if you're a health coach or something in the health and well-being area. Once again, extremely relevant because people aren't able to necessarily go to the gym or do their normal exercise routine. That's got to be in the home and they haven't got the equipment like they would have at the gym. The food in our diet is different currently because we've got shortages of certain things like pasta, rice, meat, all that sort of jazz. So coming up with healthy recipes that are applicable to what's going on right now, what's available to them, could be helpful to them. As I said before, right, like it's a heavy topic. There's a lot of sickness going on. We're hearing about mortality rates, unemployment rates, the overfilling of hospitals, lack of toilet paper and other essentials, lockdowns, social distancing, all this, that, and the other. So it can be a great escapism. There's just 2 things that I would make you aware of right now if I can. And the first one is just be careful what information you're sharing around the coronavirus. So for example, if you have a podcast that's around health and well-being, or it might be around disease or something like that, just make sure that you're getting your information from credible resources and it's not misinformation or gossip or false facts or misleading stuff, because governments are cracking down on this sort of thing. The other thing to be aware of is that for some businesses and podcasts, sure, they continue as usual, but for a lot of them out there, they're not necessarily doing that, right? So continuing business as usual or your podcast as usual without any regard for what's happening right now might potentially rub people up the wrong way, because it is a topic that's at, the majority of humanity's minds right now. So as we know, the world is on edge currently. So what does this mean for podcasting? What does it mean for your show? So the actual stats show from mypodcastreviews.com is that 7,887 podcasts were created within the last 24 hours, which means there are 7,887 people or businesses or companies or whatever have started a whole new chapter for themselves, a whole new chapter for their lives, a whole new chapter for their businesses. And that tells me something. If there's that many people that have created a podcast, then means that there's even more growth in this area, yeah? Because people are realizing, this is an opportunity. This is something else that I could be doing right now. this is something that could actually be helping my business or helping me or helping other people, helping minorities, helping majorities, helping the greater good out there. And whenever that's the case, I'm always all for it, like 100% go, go, go. I think the world needs that right now, more now than ever before in our lifetime anyway. And the fact is like, if there's that many people that are starting a podcast, imagine where it's going to be in 1 month's time, in 2 months' time, in 6 months' time, in 12 months' time. Yeah, like this is a milestone in history. This event is hugely significant. It is something that is going to go down in our history books, and we are alive living through it. Some of the experience is good, some of it is bad, some of it is horrible, some of it is great. At the end of the day, we need to make the most of it. And if you can actually show up, be consistent, and work through this and not just give up, run away and escape, this is really going to help build your listenership. This is really going to help build your audience. This is really going to help people refer your podcast onto other people to listen to, because they know that you're active. They know that you're putting your all into it, that you're pouring yourself into it, that you're committed to this, that you've decided to show up for yourself and for other people. And one thing that came to light for me when I was actually thinking about this topic was, depending on where you're at with your podcasting journey, if you're at the very beginning and the very start, depending on if you want to have people on your podcast to collaborate with, it's actually very smart. But at the same time, it's like, for me, I've been podcasting for over 14 months now, right? So some of my people that I've interviewed either aren't on social media anymore, have changed their social media names, have changed businesses, whatever it is that they're doing, and kudos to them, all for it if that's the right path for them. However, even now, for example, I'm looking at interviewing people that have been around for a while. I don't want to just interview someone that's never had a podcast interview before necessarily, or doesn't have their own following or whatnot, right? It depends what the intention is for the interview. If they've got amazing value and some knowledge that I know my listeners will benefit from, then I'm 100% happy to interview them if we click and connect. However, if it's kind of like they just want to get on an episode to build their own audience and that sort of stuff, and they haven't actually like earned their stripes, they haven't been podcasting for very long, it might have only been a month. For me, with where I'm at right now, it's probably not someone that I necessarily want to work with, because I want to be interviewing and working with and collaborating with people that are going to be around for a long time, yeah, that are going to be building their audience too, that are on a similar journey and a similar path to me. Because think of it this way, right? If you're consistent and you show up, what do you think that tells the person that's actually interviewing you? It means I'm dedicated. It means I'm committed. It means I'm consistent. It means I'm reliable. I'm trustworthy. And I really like those qualities in someone. And as someone that interviews other people, I really appreciate that, and vice versa. I've done interviews for other podcasts before where they were new, they were just starting out, and then it turns out they totally pivoted and, pulled down their podcast. And it's like, crap, that was like an hour plus of my precious time that I dedicated to them and their audience that I could have used in my own business or working with someone else that was going to be hanging around. So this is just another thing I want you to think about, is like, once again, fully encourage you to start a podcast if you're feeling like it's on your heart. I 100% support that. And I love that. I'm so excited for you if that's you. And at the same time, think about where you could be in 12 months' time. Like, you're starting now, it's all new, you're launching, you're in that first phase of podcasting. And then as you build up a bit of a reputation and an audience and trust with people, you're more likely going to have more experiences expand and open up to you as well. So that's just something to keep in mind during this coronavirus pandemic. We don't know how long it's going to go on for. We don't know when things are going to improve. We don't know when a vaccine is officially going to hit the market. I know they're working on one right now. But what is that going to say if you give up and you bow out in this time? Because the coronavirus could go on for 6 months, it could go on for 12 months, it could go on for 2 years. So if you're waiting to go, you know what, I'm just going to press pause for a second and I'll come back when things are, normal again, you could be waiting a really long time. And that's time that you could have really built up your audience and could have really promoted your podcast and helped shitloads of people out there. Just think about that for a minute. You could be further along than where you think you're going to be, which is amazing. So just to recap, guys, what I would suggest is, when actually considering your podcast, don't be discouraged if you see a lack of downloads or if your engagement drops. It's okay. Just keep going. Just keep swimming. This is normal. This is part of podcasting, yeah? The next thing is if you see growth, then keep riding the wave. Keep showing up. Keep doing what you do. The next thing is, it is not insensitive or irrelevant to be podcasting right now, yeah, depending on what you do and how you present yourself. No, you shouldn't take a break when it comes to your podcast, unless you're needing to take a break for yourself or for something personal happening in your life. But even then, in business coaching, for example, I know a lot of people that put off showing up for their people because of personal reasons. But you know what? Business needs to be treated seriously, just like your day job. Yeah. So showing up is really important. No, you shouldn't be creating less content right now. If you are in high demand or what you have to offer is in high demand, it's actually time to ramp it up, not the opposite. What do I talk about on my podcast? Talk about whatever it is that's relevant and important and valuable in your niche. If you need to talk about the coronavirus or you feel like you have a calling to do so, then feel free to do that. There's no right or wrong here necessarily. Should I talk about the pandemic on my show, or should I go on as normal like nothing's happened? Once again, totally depends. So if you have started a podcast or you're about to start a podcast, welcome to the podcasting club. I'm so excited that you've joined. All right, guys, that's it for today. Happy podcasting. Thank you so much for tuning in and for spending this beautiful time together on the Slaying Your Side Hustle podcast. I am so glad that you stopped by, and if you want to stop by again, then hit the subscribe button for future episodes. For more beyond this podcast, you can email me at oliviapowcoaching@gmail.com, or you can even send me a Facebook DM telling me what you thought and what you'd like to hear more of. Feel free to hang out with me on Instagram, tag me, or share my stuff on your stories, whatever you like. If you could just take 1 second to share this episode with someone who would love it, then that would truly be amazing, and this would continue to contribute to the greater good by spreading the love to thousands and thousands of like-minded entrepreneurial and business women around the globe. Isn't that a cool thought? I think so too. See you in the next episode.